this mic, yeah, but I'm going to use it. But do you hear it? Do you hear that music? That spiritual, these gospel songs, the music that inspired Alvin Ailey, Ailey's Revelations, choreographed in 1960. Revelations was choreographed in 3 sections. The first section, Pilgrims of Sorrow. The second section, Take Me to the Water. And the third section, Move, Members, Move. Mr. Ailey said it was the music that inspired the ballet. My name is Amos Machanic. Today I will be your moderator. Well, thank you so much. Wow. I'm a former member of the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, and I only knew Mr. Ailey through his choreography. But today's panelists were actually touched by Mr. Ailey. I can't wait to introduce them. Thank you so much for that music. I can't wait to introduce them. But before we introduce them, I'd like to bring the founder into the room. If you don't mind, repeat after me. Alvin Ailey. Alvin Ailey. Alvin. Oh, y'all got the rhythm. Okay. Ailey. Oh, I'm so excited to just have and be a part of this discussion that is in conjunction with this amazing exhibit here at the Whitney, The Edges of Ailey. If you haven't gotten a chance, please go up to the 5th floor. It is like something you've never seen before. But I want to get to it right away. Today's panelists are, like I said, living legends. I first want to bring out Renee Robinson. I'm going to read her bio first, though. Yeah, you can go ahead and clap. I will never stop you, yes? Today is a conversation, yeah? We're just talking with each other, okay? Renee Robinson was a member of the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater for a little more than 3 decades, during which time she performed principal roles in several of Mr. Ailey's ballets, including Revelations, Cry, Memoria, Blue Suite, and others. She danced and works choreographed by renowned choreographers such as Judith Jamison, Ronald K. Brown, Ulysses Dove, Matthew Rushing, and of course, George Faison. She was Irene Dowd's first teaching fellow at the Juilliard School and is a master teaching artist with Ailey Arts and Education. Ms. Robinson is a faculty member at Yale University. Renee Robinson is also the recipient of the prestigious Dance Magazine Award. Everybody, do me a favor and welcome Renee Robinson to the stage. Renee, you better wade in the water. Wade in the water, children. Yes. The person that carried the umbrella like no other. Yes. Our next guest, oh my gosh, Mr. George Faison is an American dancer, choreographer, teacher, and theater producer. He made history in 1975 when he became the first African American to win a Tony Award for Best Choreography for his work on The Wiz. He is also a Drama Desk Award winner and a 1991 nominee for the Emmy Award for Choreography. He was a featured dancer with the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, founder of the George Faison Universal Dance Experience, and co-founder, producing artistic director of the Faison Firehouse Theater. Mr. Faison is also the recipient of the 2024 Dance Magazine Award. You know, come on now. Are you ready? Give it up for Mr. George Faison. Get on your feet. Yes. Oh, my Lord. Beautiful. And give it up for yourselves. Thank you so much for all of you coming today. I just want to get started with it right away. Thank you both for being here.
Hello, Mr. Mechanic.
Hello,
Hi,
Ms.
this
Robinson.
is my partner. So if we giggle a lot, we have a lot of history. So
Yes.
Hi.
How you doing? Hello, Mr. Faison.
How are you?
I'm fantastic.
So good to see you.
So good to see you. Yes. So I want to get started right away. I want to go back a little bit in time. Why dance? Why did you even start dancing? You know, there's so many things. You know, it could have been music. It could have been drama. But why dance? Why was dance the medium that touched you most, or the medium that you said, you know, this is how I want to express myself?
I don't know if hi everyone, and Whitney Museum, thank you. I don't know if at the age of 9, when I started taking dance, studying the classical ballet technique in Washington, D.C. at the Jones Haywood School of Ballet, which is what it was called then. It's now the Jones Haywood School of Dance. But I don't know if at 9 years old, I really, process that this is what I want to do. I know that Miss Jones and Miss Haywood, who were my teachers, they told my mother that they felt that I had talent. And I remember, you go in and they take a look at your body and they said something about she has a nice straight back or something about my legs. And that was a good thing.
Yes.
It was something, that interests me, but I don't know if there was a thought of this thing that I was studying being a part of my future. I wanted to do well. They were tough teachers, African Americans teaching classical ballet. I was drawn to their passion for that dance technique and their drive to create excellent dancers. That's all I knew at 9 years old, but I was very drawn to, I don't know, the discipline, get it right. Full disclosure, I cried a lot after class as a 9-year-old because this left foot would not point. And all I heard from Miss Jones and Miss Haywood is that left foot, oh gosh, you got to work on your feet. And I remember my mother saying, and I always wanted to quit. I was like, I'm out of here. She was like, you can quit when you come home and you've told me about a great class that you've had. You've had a wonderful class, and then if you say you want to quit, then. But it never happened that way. I only wanted to quit when, the classes were bad. So, but, during that time for myself, I don't think I thought about it in those many directions that young people, how they, at 5, they say, well, I've been dancing all my life. It's like, no, you've been taking class.
Yeah.
It was just, I enjoyed it, and I really loved those two really elegant women and the excellence that they brought to the classroom setting. Yeah.
I love it. Mr. Faison, also, I learned recently, also from D.C. Yes. So I was like, DC is in the house.
In the
DC
house.
and DC, get
DC's
into it.
in the
Yes.
house.
So I just want to know, like, also for you, why just, I know I did a little research about, maybe your father with the awning business and that type of thing. And, you would think, okay, well, how do you get to dance that way?
I was lucky enough to grow up with both parents.
Fantastic.
In the same house. We had dinner at 6 o'clock every day. You didn't miss it either. The discipline was meted out there at the table. You lived and died with what you hadn't done or the accomplishments that you made. Growing up in segregated D.C., because I was there under the tree in 1963 when I first heard the I Have a Dream speech, and we all heard, the world heard, I Have a Dream. But I grew up I went to Dunbar High School, which is the first African-American high school in the country, and I follow in the footsteps of a lot of the illustrious people who went there, one being Charles Drew, who created blood plasma, and so forth. So they were very, very astute. So I I leave junior high school and I go to high school, and a friend, who later became a friend, said there's an audition. Audition, what is that? And I went to an audition for the American Light Opera Company that was at the Trinity Church in Georgetown with this friend of mine. So I go through the rigors of learning all of, going through an audition, singing, acting, dancing, which I had never, ever done. And I come out of the audition because I had made it. And I run up to my friend, we're gonna be doing Kiss Me, Kate.
Oh, wow.
Okay. I got it. He didn't. I know. And that was kind of the cooling of that kind of relationship. So I did the American Light Opera Company. So actually, before I even came to New York, I had done all the golden musicals of that particular time. Kiss Me, Kate. I turned out to be the lead dancer. I had not had all of the training that I should have had, but I could dance. Okay, and we had a lot of parties and so forth. So it came naturally to me. I could improvise as well. Improvisation opens you up to yourself. You could break your neck doing some of that, but I'm saying, I overheard, Charles Organs,
Yes.
and before I went to Joe's in Haywood, talk about Tombe, Pas de Bourrée, Glissa. What are they talking about? So I decided that I had to educate myself. What were those terms? Yes, I could dance and so forth, but I had to know that. And Louis Johnson came from that school. Cheetah Rivera came from that school. Louis was also a teacher at Howard University, and he came down one weekend, and that was an explosion as far as becoming seduced by dance. Graduation came up. You look left and right at the people as they give those speeches. What are you going to do tomorrow? Okay, of course, I had gone to, after school, to Howard University to study under Mary Rose Allen, who was the head of the physical education department, but brought dancers and so forth to the university. There I met Carolyn Tate, who actually danced with Donnie McHale. And so that other circle, of people I met on the other side of Washington, on the other side of Wisconsin Avenue, or
Absolutely.
Connecticut Avenue.
Mr. Faison.
But you asked the question, why did you dance?
Yes.
You didn't know me. You didn't know my people. You didn't know where I was from. How were we going to tell the world about dancing? How was I going to tell the world or be acceptable to what I was going to go into? A man didn't dance. We didn't do any of that. And, so my father was on one side and my mother was on the other. Let's come to some sort of compromise. What could you possibly be doing over there with all those white folks? Because the American Light Opera Company was that. I learned Kiss Me, Kate, Pajama Game, you name it, and West Side Story, and so forth. And I did all of that before I came. I got invited to Arthur's first company, in which they were having auditions. And I said, maybe I'll get closer to Alvin Ailey like that. Because one seminal night, I saw my life pass before me. Everything that I could have possibly learned about who I was as an African American or black or whatever you want to call us, and because we've been called everything. So, but I was like there. I see you laughing. Yes, I know. Right. And that too. But anyway, I wanted you to know who I was. Black people. We were going into the world, a world that nobody knew us outside of the work that my parents, maybe not my parents, but that black people did, and not really know them. And so I took up that man. I wanted you to know me. That's why I choreographed the kind of dances that I do. Sweet Otis.
Yes.
When it is, about, that'll teach you about romantic love. Yes, we have romantic love. You know what I mean? We could love each other. My parents taught me that. Growing up, in my father's house, I say I'm going to dance. He didn't understand that. So, but that's what I've chosen. And that's what I left D.C. in pursuit of Alvin Ailey for. But when I got to New York, Alvin was in Europe, and they picked him up to go to Dakar for the Festival of Two Worlds. So I had to wait a year and a half for it to come back.
Wow.
So but I didn't stop there. I studied then at Clark Center. What do? I couldn't go back home. So I studied at Clark Center under Thelma Hill, Jimmy Truitt, Pepsi Patel, and all of those other and joined HARUACT, which they trained all of those young people who wanted to.
Now, Mr.
escape
Faison,
poverty.
I just want you to hold on to that for 1 second. Just hold on, because it's so, you see, it's just so much rich history here, and it's just so many things that I want just to all of us to experience. So I want you to hold on to that. I'm glad you talked about dancing at home. In Miss Jamison's ballet, Love Stories, she has a quote with Mr. Ailey saying, "Black people dance at home." And how that, how some things are just innate. We were already dancing at home. That was just a part of us.
Yes.
And I was here on Tuesday teaching Ailey Dance for Active Aging class. And one of our participants, her name was Miss Terry, she said, what Alvin did for me, what he did for us, what he did for the culture, is that he put us on stage. Mm-hmm. He celebrated us. Right. And so when you say, how would you know me? I think that is what's so amazing about Alvin Ailey and the Ailey Company.
Absolutely.
Him wanting to project the Black image, as he says, properly. Now, speaking of Mr. Ailey, I just want to know, can you, we all find out about Alvin Ailey in so many different ways. I found out about Alvin Ailey through, I think, just little images of things on PBS, on Channel 13, oh, what is that? What's going on? Or, when the company came to my high school and did a lecture demonstration like they do, outreach performances. But I'd like to know from the both of you, what was your journey to the Ailey Company? How did you hear about him? I know you were, taking classes this is around 15 years old at Howard University, taking classes there, and doing all of these theatrical things. But how, and I want to start with you, Renee, how did you hear, because you were studying classical ballet, how did you hear about Ailey? What was your journey to the Ailey Company?
I'll start with, I auditioned for a scholarship for the summer, for the Ailey School this summer, and I did get the scholarship, but I almost did not get in. And speaking of classical ballet, I wish I'd had the theater exposure at a younger age, but it's just I'm listening to you and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't have that path. But as I mentioned earlier, it was classical ballet, the bun head, the specific color pink, and the toe shoes, the whole thing, the whole 9 yards. When I was older, at that time, the Jones and Haywood also had a small regional ballet company called the Capitol Ballet Company, and I performed with them, not much because, you're still in school. When I came to New York, I was at New York University. For the summer, I had plans of traveling to Paris, France, with one of my classmates. We had no money. Dance was, I'm going to be a lawyer. At that point, there weren't many places.
I'm going to be a judge.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to be a lawyer. Because at that time, a person of color, classical ballet, where was I going to dance? Yeah, out of the question. So my ideas were shifting, but some of my other friends were dancers at the university, and they said, well, just go to Ailey. They will like you. Go to the Ailey School and audition. And so I said, well, I don't have anything else to do, but we are headed to Paris. We're going to wait on tables to survive, and I'm going to learn to speak French. Oh, yeah. And I did the audition, and I remember Denise Jefferson, who was the director, the late, wonderful Denise Jefferson, who was the director of the school. she was, you have that table at the front of the room and you audition and they whisper at the table and yeah, no. She told me later, I did get the scholarship, but she did tell me that they were not going to take me because my exposure and my experience with other dance techniques, other modern dance techniques specifically, it just wasn't there. I just wasn't strong in those other disciplines besides classical ballet. And something happened. I went across the floor. She said I smiled, and the whole panel went, "Oh, okay, let's take her anyway."
Yes.
She'll work hard, and her ballet training is strong enough. We'll work with her. That's how I got into the school. By the time the summer was finishing, Kelvin Rotardier asked me to be a part of what we call the third company. I'm sure they didn't call us the third company. It was the performance group. But it would be the equivalent of the certificate program that's headed by Freddie Moore. As a member of that company, the third company, was headed by Kelvin Rotardier, who had been a principal dancer with the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. We actually learned Revelations.
Wow. So wait, hold on.
You
So
didn't know the story.
As a student,
Yes.
you learned Revelations.
The entire ballet.
Oh my
And
goodness. Wow.
hold on to your hat.
I'm holding on.
We not only learned it, Kelvin Rotardier was born in Trinidad.
Yes.
And at that time, there was a cultural exchange program that he was able to secure. And we, as a company, traveled to Trinidad and we performed. And Mr. Ailey gave permission for us to perform the entire Revelations. I did Fix Me Jesus.
As a student in the school.
You keep saying
I'm not clear here. As a student in the school.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
I was a student, and Mr. Ailey came to our rehearsals. He coached us. He gave us information. He told us what we were not going to do and what we were going to do, particularly in bringing the embodied truth to who these people were in this, very important ballet to him. And so that was actually my first exposure to Revelations as a student and learning it and getting a chance to perform it.
That's amazing. I mean, for your first exposure, and was it your first exposure? I'm sure Mr. Ailey was he walking around the school?
Yes.
I hear stories about
Yes.
Mr. Ailey going into classes, walking around the school, but all of a sudden for him to be in rehearsal with you on the signature ballet
Oh, yeah.
of,
Yeah.
of the company, I mean, that's pretty,
I think he had a great deal of trust
yes.
for how Kelvin Rotardier
Absolutely.
was going to make sure that we understood. What do the young people say? Understanding the assignment, or
Must understand. Do you understand the assignment?
look, everyone.
Yes.
He knew that Kelvin Rotardier was going to keep us on track, focus, and understand what the responsibility was with getting this opportunity, and understanding, this is how the ballet looks. And through our, technique classes, and you get over in that lateral, make sure that arabesque is correct. Within the technique and understanding that those shapes had to be there, you had to tell the story, as we all know.
Absolutely.
You have to embody that story about those people that Mr. Ailey talked about, knowing and watching in the community in the South, Rogers, Texas, when he was younger. So I think he knew that Kelvin Rotardier was going to make sure everything stayed the way it was supposed to.
Yeah, no, the amazing Kelvin Rotardier, who also made sure that Memoria, that tribute, the tribute ballet, Mr. Ailey choreographed in tribute to Joyce Trissler, and all of us students, we were so happy to be in the room with Mr. Rotardier because he kept us on track because we knew we were going to be on stage with those first company members. Mr. Faison, I saw you over there laughing, and I know there's some stories in there. I just want to know, because you're so from D.C., what was your introduction? Talk to me.
Black, and I was going to dance.
You were black and you were going to dance.
am I?
Yes. So, yeah.
I went to
Microphone, Mr. Faison.
Oh, I went to Howard University, and a friend of mine, you said, how did we see it? I saw it in a magazine. I saw this incredible picture that spoke to me, that triangle that you see, those arms stretched out. And they spoke to me. They said something beyond and spoke with emotion. This is a picture. Oh, by the way, they're going to be here tonight in concert. The curtain went up, and I was taken. It started with Takata, Congo Tango Palace. Alvin was not just him. He took everybody with him. Anna Julia Cooper, a publisher from the 19th century, said, when and where my people enter, so will I. And Alvin is the embodiment of that. He took us with him. And everything they did, there's trouble all over this world. Whether it didn't matter what they did. The economy of the movement, the gesture, everything spoke beyond what words could say. So by the end of that program, and they hit Revelations and so forth, I was probably on the ceiling somewhere, floating in the auditorium. But it was the most magical evening that I had ever had, but gave me a trajectory. It pointed the way that I should go. Now, we had struggled. America was fighting, civil rights and was raging. The girls had been blown up in church and all of the terrible things. He washed that away and showed me the interior of my being. And then I was able to then look at the world a different way. So that was the beginning of that. And from that day, that's what I had envisioned for myself. So I left school, and my journey was to go to New York. And through all of those trials and through television, dancing with Lauren Bacall, doing all of those things before he came back in a year and a half and dancing with Thelma Hill and the HARU kids in Harlem and all of that. Thelma teaching us the parts of the men that she could remember, the men's part, Cinnamon and so forth. So she taught us what she could remember and so forth, having been in that company. So I was auditioned for that, and during the first decade, I became of his existence, I became a member of the Alvin Ailey Company. And then I danced. Yes. And that was my experience. And then Alvin and I became friends. So it's only because we talked about, where did the emotion come from? What were you doing? And one lesson that he'll teach you is that your life begins once you step out of that wing and you live that entire life on the stage until you make it to the wing on the other side. Everything is about what you do once you get on the stage. How you portray those people, how the rigor of the repetition is what makes your achievement. You're conquering that, making that body do what you want it to do, not what it wants to do, because it's a wild thing, and it could go and do anything that it wants to. But to learn, to conquer, is the greatest achievement. So we talked about that, and and he, in his struggles, because he was kind of estranged from his family, and trying to look for that anchor in his own life, that love, that you would want. But when you are possessed,
Yes.
you forget that for a while. It only becomes important later. But to have the courage to step out there and want to do something and to expose yourself to other people, to open, to lay plain your feelings, your emotions, the things that you could be proud of and not so proud of, but finding an artistic way, a path. He showed me that. And then so, no matter what you took or what you had to take in growing up, in facing a world that didn't care whether you were a part of their parade or not. But he showed me a parade I belonged to. And then that allowed me to share that gift that God gives you. And so that's how I was able to meet a lot of different people in this time.
Yes.
Thank you. And grow and have an appreciation of other people's art, of other people, what they contribute, what they give to the world. Because we all have a part. In some of the controversial plays that I've done, like the blacks and so forth, you put on masks to say, oh, these are the white people. No, you invite them here to participate. That's why I do a lot of different things. I do Lotus music and dance, and they do all of the dances of India, all of that. And you go. I have after school the kids, what they have to teach, what you have to give to them. They give them the confidence to go out into the world. That's what Alvin gives you, the confidence to do it.
Yes.
And not apologize for it. To do it, be yourself. Okay, not everybody grows up that, but they enjoy us. You know what I mean? But we want you to participate.
Yes.
You're not there just to observe, but to participate and to have the capacity to love somebody else. Now, the person that I didn't even think when I met on one of Alvin's tours and spent 50 years with them.
Exactly. But this is what's so beautiful. I love what you said about, that we're not just here to observe. We're here to participate. And Mr. Ailey, he says, I wanted to create a company that really held up a mirror to society so that we could see how beautiful we are.
He believed that truly.
Absolutely.
But the struggle and the pushback that he got was real.
Absolutely.
The things that he, he had to endure was palpable.
Yeah. So
it was, and so that all of those, such simple movement, and then when you danced it again, the follow through was it emboldened you to dig deeper into your soul.
Like the powerful image that you saw of I've Been Buked. Going into I've Been Buked and into Revelations, I just want to know, the title of today's discussion, of course, is The Legacy of Revelations. Why do you think, having performed this ballet all over the world, so many times, for so many different audiences, and we know these themes of despair, of rebirth, of joy, of hope, why has this ballet in particular had such an impact on our culture over and over, year after year, having performed it over and over and over? Why does it continue to have such a lasting impact on us, Revelations?
Because it makes us move.
It makes us
moves
move.
us No, it moves you. You're going to resist, but the Spirit moves.
The Spirit which cannot be denied.
Never.
It cannot
ever.
be denied.
You can't hold
once
it
that,
back.
and I mean, and that's when I came out here and I said, "Can you hear it? Can you hear these spirituals? Can you hear the I've been buked and I've been scorned? Can you hear, didn't my Lord deliver Daniel? Can you feel in your heart, fix me, Jesus? Can you
Fix
say,
me.
rock of my soul in the bosom of
Abraham.
Abraham? Yes, that makes us all get up and jump for joy. Those things, because I want to know. This takes me to my next question. We all come to revelations in different ways. Now I'm talking about as performers, but also as audience members. Mr. Ailey created Revelations talking about his blood memories, but we all didn't grow up in Texas with him, yes? Like I said, I got to know Mr. Ailey through his choreography, and for some reason, Revelations right away just felt innate. It felt like I know this. I know church. I know tambourines. I know big fans. I know big hats. I know the fan with the Martin Luther King on one side of it and the funeral home on the other side of it. I know those chapels. I know the musty smell of the Bibles and the hymn books. So when it came to performing Revelations, it just felt like this is home. However, everybody didn't go to a Baptist church. How did, in your own personal experience, was it something that felt all of a sudden like, nah, I got this, I know this. Of course, we're dealing with form. We're dealing with, like you said, the lateral T's, the arabesques, all of that wonderful stuff in there. But did it feel natural right away, or was it something that you had to find your way into? How was that experience for you in learning this classic ballet Revelations? Because not everybody, so how was
I
it?
think you had to go to church first.
But what if you did
No,
not?
but I'm saying,
What if you didn't?
No, but I'm saying,
Yeah.
where do you get your inspiration from? You had to go to church. Okay, we're going to church. And then what impresses you about church? Okay, my mother got us all dressed. We put on our best clothes. We went into the church. The choir was singing, and so forth. And you glance over at your mother, and she's crying. And she's praying all at the same time about the difficulty of raising 5 children and having to make all of those meals, taking care of us, and making sure that we had everything that we need, taking care of our husband, and so forth, and making a family, disciplining us to the point where we knew what to do when you said, the reverence that we had, and thanking God for what we had on the table, thanking God for the fact that we had both of them, for our own protection. We had them, and we had everything else in that segregated community, until you grow up and then you go out and you meet the world. That's just the socialization of the whole thing. Now you have to learn something about being a human being, about empathy, about compassion, about having something for someone else, feeling something for someone else. So when Bloody Sunday came up and we all saw for the first time the people rolling down the streets with fire hoses and dogs yapping at them, what people were really going through. And then you thank God for the blessing you had of this shelter, of this protection, of just growing up like that.
The shelter of the church, of the family,
of home, family,
yeah,
in the church, and all of the things
church
that
community.
that you
Absolutely.
being grateful for, just even for your life. So it's like that, I think, is the basis. That's a slow build. Alvin, had the finesse and the artistic integrity to know that we couldn't just jump out there and do that. I want you to feel the facets of what this life and this world is going to be. So when we are searching in that darkness,
and I've been buked.
I think they knew slow build. We're starting at the beginning.
Yes.
Okay. So it's like when we are reaching for that. When we lay down into that supplement, when we all give in
That hinge.
to that move. And the technique that we studied, that's why they didn't want to take, because you've been indoctrinated with the ballet.
Yes.
And he wanted you to have the rawness.
Yes.
The other is Martha Graham and Bella
Yeah.
Lewinsky and all of those other people that we worship. I mean, Martha Graham, around the back, what are you talking about? All of that. Dudley brought that. I mean, the best example of that male dancer, Morton Winston, Bill Luther. These are the people. When my first rehearsal on that trip that we were going to do with Arthur Mitchell, going to that first time, I saw the most magnificent dancers walk into the room like Paula Kelly. And all of these people would and dance. I mean, these specimens, these people were unbelievable. I had never seen anything like this in my life, so. Like your left foot. I had a left foot too. So where would I get on the bar with? We were rode up all the way around.
Yes.
Arthur would be teaching. Of course you would see my right foot because it could do everything. So when I turned around, I was on that end of the class. I was watching everybody else so they couldn't see my left foot.
I love it.
Right,
Renee.
so in classes, but then they would then do the ballets.
Yeah.
And just what I had seen on that stage at Howard University, here it was. But then I saw Dunham, and then I saw Rainbow Around My Shoulders. We rehearsed all of these ballets.
Yeah.
This is my first, I'm getting off the bus, coming to do this.
Yes.
And we didn't go. We didn't go to Europe, so I wasn't going back to Howard, so I was determined that I was going to do that. And the rigor that it takes, the dedication that it takes to get up every day and do that. But then, in addition to that, you're chasing your culture. You are, and then, which is the embodied, never having to let go.
Yes.
And luckily enough, I haven't had to let go
Amen.
of that. I could take that wherever.
Yes.
And the people that influence you like that, you take what they have. You don't look at what color they are. No, how high is that jump? How does that feel to stay up in the air that long and come down and recover in something else? I did Doris Humphreys, I did Shakers and all of that before I left D.C.
Wow.
So I had done, all of those ballets and had an appreciation for what other people do. And because it all ties together.
All of it.
All of it. No matter what village or hut or hamlet that you come from.
Yeah.
There's something that you give, like the Yugoslavians who are in Dubrovnik. I mean, you talk about jazz, clarinet, and all of that business. Oh, and going to that. Pula, Sarajevo, Split. This is before they talked about cleansing anything.
But
It's like, but that, you take everything. Alvin had to take all of that. And he was constantly in search of your perfection. You had to have the ballet. You had to have a more refined technique. We did have to come out, we had to stop dancing barefoot and put on shoes and perfect all of those things. You had to do that because you weren't doing that before you met him.
I mean, I think we're talking about the total dancer.
Yes.
The total dancer.
Completely
where
after that.
where you have your classical technique and you also have your modern technique. This was the vision of, the founder, Alvin Ailey, the total dancer. That continues through your legacy, but I want you to hold on to that because I want to get back to how Mr. Ailey influenced you even beyond the company. Renee, I also want to ask you, was it easy to find yourself in the ballet right away? You don't have to, you don't have to, if you feel like, wait, I don't, but I just want to know, was it easy? I mean, you already told us you started out as a student learning this ballet. So how was that? And I want to put this in there as well. In the exhibit, Edges of Ailey, and this was for both
Okay.
of you, we see Mr. Ailey in rehearsal. You know, we see him rehearsing the dancers, and we, as you know, the public, we're looking and we're like, oh my gosh, what was it like to be there? But you were actually there in rehearsal with him. You were actually there in rehearsal with him. You were actually, move your shoulder, I imagine, or, you know, touched by him, actually. What was it like to be in the room? And I just want to give you a little bit more. I'm
Yes.
looking at clips of Mr. Ailey, and it seems like not only corrections or adjustments when it came to technique and dance, but it was more so like a theater director, and that's why I want to circle back, Mr. Faison, with that, about that influence. Almost like a theater director with the images, the imagery. What was that like to be in the room with that level of genius?
Yeah, that's the
And that's a perfect
yes,
word.
perfect word. If I can start with just a little bit of my thought from one of the questions you just asked.
Please, please.
About what do I think, or what does one think about why the ballet is still, Revelations is still so relevant, why it reaches still to this day, more than 60 years later, is still one of those works that students who come from around the world to the school, they have dreams of getting into the company, and of course, you know, they see the beautiful dancers, but you know, Revelations is top on the list. They can't wait in whatever division they are in the school. If they get an opportunity to learn one of the excerpts, you know, that's the golden ticket. One of the things, well, there are a few things that I think, because Mr. Ailey, and I'm thinking about the Whitney exhibit and the bold red that is, you know, in kind of cradling the space that represents Mr. Ailey's blood memories when he's talked about his earlier works being very personal because they were from his blood memories. We know that Revelations is one of them. And that he, in those rehearsals, everyone, sometimes, you know, I don't know, the yellow section when the women are getting up off the stool. Oh, I didn't bring my fan, but it's not the real fan. And, you know, we'd have to get off the stool in a certain way, and we'd pop up. And I remember one rehearsal, he would say, dancers, don't ask me why I feel like I have to do the voice.
No,
I'm
please,
sure it's
please.
not his voice.
We want to hear it. We want to hear it.
Dancers, you know, ladies, you need more weight. The women who he saw in his community, in church, steeped in their faith, even though they were living these difficult lives, the community, you know, they would still show up to church and have that undying faith that tomorrow would be better. So he was telling us, you know, dancers, can you imagine that you're a little bigger and, you know, up here is a little heavier, and, you know, you did the chug down, and we would chug down like this because we're so happy we doing Revelations. And he would go, no. You know, ready to go, no. And I remember that very clearly. One of the many things I feel is the reason why Revelations is still so popular. The ballet, the inspiration came from the people. So I think people around the world, the first thing they recognize through the genius simplicity of just the lateral to the side, a reach, like you mentioned at the beginning, they see people and they see the spirit. They hopefully see the dancers embodying the spirit of what Mr. Ailey remembered about that community in Rogers, Texas. I think when it's performed, and I can't speak of the earlier, I got into the company in the early 80s, but before then, when I would see the company, if it was Revelations, whatever was on the program, I remember feeling like everyone knew why they were moving, and they knew what they were saying, and they all knew how to say it, you know, through using their great technique. I think first and foremost, people around the world you might not have had the American experience, Southern Baptist Church. I remember my first trip to Japan where I ate only McDonald's, and okay, that's another story. Second trip though, I ate everything. Everything. And I remember the people at the stage door and the crying and the joy and the gifts and, the revelations. Maybe they didn't have other English language vocabulary, but they knew what they felt. And so I think the first thing is that people around the world, they recognize themselves.
Yes.
Because it's about real people and the journey of the human spirit, the struggle, the rebirth, the baptism, the beautiful solo, and I see Dudley Williams in my mind. I want to be ready, wanting to be ready for when it's time to put on that long white robe or make the transition from the earthly body, and then the celebration. And that is daily. When Revelations is a part of the arts and education, and it goes into the schools for a week and have the week residency, and of all ages, you turn that music on, and those little ones, you say, now you go into this position and go to the side and go to the side, and then you tell them a little bit more stories about Mr. Ailey and the work, and that usually the second day, they're like in the little faces, then they come and see the ballet. And the funny thing, you remember touring, and if Revelations went into those schools before we arrived at those cities, and then those students came into the theater to see a children's performance, there was a certain, I don't know about you, there was a little energy about them, when Revelation started, like, you could feel them sitting there in their seats looking at us like, now let me see.
Some ownership
Let me
over
see
it.
if
This
you.
is us. We know this.
Yeah, we know this. Yes. This, even at that age, and maybe only a week residency or 3 days, they understood what the ballet was about. I could say that they were, in those moments, almost in an interesting way, saying to Mr. Ailey, "Don't worry, we're going to check and make sure they're doing it right." Because we know what it's about. The other thing I wanted to say is that the ballet meets human beings, dancers, where they are. It was classical ballet, and they weren't going to take me in the school. Look, everyone, Mr. Ailey saw me in the performance group, agreed that I could do Fix Me. I had to audition twice before I got into the company. Yeah. So, because the first time I stood in the back, he told the other teachers, we thought she didn't want it. Now, what do you mean I didn't want it? I showed up. I stayed at the school. Anyway, I think that the ballet, in many ways, it meets people where they are. And so with my classical training, I had gone through the school. My Horton technique was better, my Graham technique. But anyway, so it met me where I was as a young person who didn't have, I'm so inside of me, I'm like, tell me more stories about the beginning in the theater. I didn't have that exposure. But because of Fix Me, Jesus, and the other moments in Revelations where I saw classical ballet shapes, it met me where I was, and then, the rest came with it because I understood this special message and the historical importance of this is a reflection of that rich community. Yes. That I remember in one of the interviews that I've watched, Mr. Ailey saying, I wanted to create ballets for the everyday man. I wanted to create ballets where the people in my community felt comfortable to go to the theater because they could see themselves, back to the holding up a mirror. So in those rehearsals, getting to your question, everyone, if you we would do the shapes, but if you didn't bring yourself, about the rehearsal process.
What was it like being in the room with Mr.
Yeah,
Ailey?
if you
Right
didn't
on
bring
those
that
parts.
other part
Let's
to
go
it.
Let's go to the road of
The
the
ti-
TV snow, something hard. Now, joy is one thing.
Yes.
And that's what he did give us, joy. But what about those back-breaking pieces that we are? So we waited till the end of the program, and then, we're going to have joy because we're going to see Jesus or
Yes.
something like that.
After you've done those
right,
back-breaking
but, oh
pieces.
my God,
But
yes,
Mr.
okay.
Faison, the Road of the Phoebe Snow, choreographed by Tally Beatty, that's what was so innovative and amazing about Mr. Ailey is that you have all of these modern companies now saying, okay, well, now we want to be a repertory company. It's not just, the work of our founder. But Mr. Ailey, from the beginning, was saying, no. I need to, piggybacking off of what you said, I'm bringing you all with me.
Yes.
You're coming with me. All of these choreographers, all of these black choreographers, white choreographers, all choreographers who didn't have a space to show their work, I am bringing them in. Listen, audience, I have a treat for you. I do want to get some of your questions, but if you will allow me just one more question of each panelist, okay? Because I'm like a kid in a candy store, okay? So start to think about your questions, but I have to ask you this. As we're talking about the legacy of Alvin Ailey, Mr. Faison, this question is especially for you. I believe that the beauty of the Ailey legacy is how all the people that were touched by him continue to go on and continue his legacy of excellence in so many ways. Can you talk about, just a little bit about your life as a choreographer and how the way that you direct and you choreograph are influenced in any way by Alvin Ailey? We both got the wonderful opportunity to dance, in Slaves, in the amazing classic Sweet Otis. So if you could just tell us a little bit, and then all of the other things. I did my research, Earth, Wind, and Fire, hello, what? all of the people, The Wiz, all of the things, just being in the room. Are there any ways where you can say, you know what? Mr. Ailey gave that to me. I remember when he did that, if you could just talk just briefly about if there was anything that, a seed. Mr. Ailey talks about, I wanted to plant seeds and see them grow. What was a seed that he planted in you?
I'm the seedling.
Yes, yes. You can give it up. The manifestation,
Right, so here I am.
Yes.
And to go back to the Revelations and what we thought about that, it is joy, people. Joy. Just joy. To have a release. A release. Not everything is this rush-a-day world that we constantly telling our kids, this is what you're going to have to do here. Let's have some joy right now. You know what I mean? And that slow build that I'm talking about, yes, the pain, the rigor, all of that goes along with that. At the end is going to be that joy. And his knowing that everybody would like to see themselves on the stage. Do it with the fan, with the swirling of the people. Everybody. You do that with even when you hear the cantors, some of that music is so unbelievable that you understand somebody else's joy. Or the bells that you hear when the dancers over at Bharata Natyam. Yes, with that, and juxtapose that with tap dancing. We are related, folks. All of it. You know what I mean? So why hold back? You've got to participate. It's the joy that you want to feel at the end of that accomplishment. You did that. You got that. You own that. The courage to do it. You've got to own it. You can't just talk about it. So revelations, dreams of things unseen. Revelations, it's in the words. reveal, revel, all of that. All of that has to be that. How did I feel? Probably the hardest part was saying goodbye, and you offer, everything you think you have, even things you haven't even done. I'm offering you what I have, and I had, after our trip to Africa in '67, I had come up with the ballet Gazelle, and I said, and I mentioned it to him at that particular time, and it was pulling me. That was my first ballet. It's now in the Smithsonian, and the date is wrong because I created that in 1971. Yes. So it's yes, and not 77 when you got it and Donna did it. So that was my very first experience. The allegory is what you are hoping you can turn this craft that you've learned into the stories that you can tell.
Oh my God, those amazing stories. Revel, reveal, amen. Okay. Renee, my final question for you before I turn it over, and if you, I'm waiting. I need at least one or two. Okay, is that okay? I'm looking at stage management. Are we okay? Like one. We'll get one special. Okay. Renee, you have had the distinct pleasure of dancing for 3 artistic directors during your time with the Ailey Company. No doubt you have performed Revelations more times than you can count. You can give it up.
A mere 30 years.
Yes. And I think you've talked about it already. It's just about story. First of all, did you save like $1? Did you put $1 away for each time for Revelations? No, I'm just joking. I'm just messing with you. Yes? Because that used to be a thing.
I did not. It was a thing. I was
Yes.
putting $5 away.
Hello.
At one point. And
Yes.
then I needed.
Yes. Yes. So I just wanted to know, because people always ask, you're doing Revelations all the time. Well, how do you keep it fresh? How do you do it? So I'm going to ask because they want to know how, and I think it's what you said, you bring yourself to it. How were you able to keep it fresh for all of those years? And just, personally, I want to know any secrets on, reinvention and longevity. Do you want to spill some secrets and let us know? It's just between us. Yeah. How does it go? Yeah. I don't. I see it. They're talking to me as well. Last one.
I think maybe, and I'll speak for myself in wanting and understanding that it needed to be kept fresh.
Yes.
Starting with that at the beginning when I mentioned learning the work when I was a student in the performance group. We called ourselves the Third Company. And having the person as director who was in the company, a principal dancer, Kelvin Rotardier, he really set the terrain, so to speak, for me as a young person in understanding how important the ballet was. And I remember sneaking into City Center, to see the company perform and watching the dancers embody this rich story and this journey about the human spirit. It didn't matter so much that the directors changed. One always knew that you had a responsibility. It was bigger, and it is bigger than all of us because it belongs first and foremost to the people. I remember Miss Jameson saying to the company in one of the tours that, don't forget, everyone, every time the curtain goes up on Revelations, I think we were in the company together, you have an opportunity to celebrate Mr. Ailey when you perform Revelations. So it has to be good. It has to be good because there will be audience members, in attendance around the world who've never seen the work, but they might have heard about it. So like those young students who come
This
in
is
and
their
looking
first
at us
time.
like, let me see. So we have a responsibility to do the work, do the man's ballet correctly for those individuals who are having the first experience of seeing revelations. And then you have generations. Now you have, the parents bringing their children, and as time moves forward, the aunties, and oh my goodness, you have all of a whole families that are coming who remember seeing revelations. And they are a tough crowd because they're probably thinking, who's she? When I first started doing the umbrella, who's she? Where's Miss Jameson? Where's Judith Jameson?
Yes.
Just between us, there's a review where, and it was in D.C., the person wrote about me when I first started doing Revelations. Well, let's just say it wasn't the most glowing. And at the end, she said, well, we won't have to worry about it for too long, because I'm sure she won't be doing it for long. Famous last words.
Well,
and
they
that
were
was
wrong.
early on.
They were wrong.
But with each director, after Mr. Ailey, they also understood that they had a responsibility to take great care, not just good care, great care of this most famous modern dance work that they knew the entire world had that expectation. So it was easy to make it fresh. And then, like she said, when that music starts and you're in the wing, maybe you're tired, ooh.
That's when
and then that waiting in the water comes on, the spirit.
Yeah.
So it was easy to do that, to keep
I
it fresh.
mean, wow. Thank you so much. Everybody, please clap your hands for Renee Robinson. Give it up for Mr. George Faison. I think they offered us such a great depth of knowledge today that, because I'm looking, stage management is like, your dream of audience participation is over, yes? But I just want to say, yeah, we must have a part two. But, Mr. Ailey said that the most unique thing in the world is you. If you could take these steps and show us yourself through the audience, that would be an extraordinary experience for the audience. He said that the dance in particular is for everybody. Mr. Ailey believed, and I'm sure we all believe, that dance came from the people and that it should always be delivered back to the people. On behalf of Mr. Faison, on behalf of Ms. Robinson, my name is Amos Machanic, and I just want to thank you all for coming out today and allowing us to deliver our dance to you. Thank you so much, the team at Whitney. Please go up and see the Edges of Ailey exhibit right on the 5th floor. Go ahead, stand up for these amazing guests. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amos.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, George.
Yay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.